Hi, welcome to this Fusion 360 tutorial. In this video, we're going to cover some of the most important basic things that you need to know to get started quickly with Fusion, and some of the things that the program might make you want to learn more about, so that way your life is easier later when you start running into problems. So, let's start with the data panel. Fusion stores everything in the cloud, and so you have your projects, and I'm going to open up my project, and you'll see that I have all my files. They're stored on the cloud, and every version is saved within each file, so you don't have a bunch of separate files for each version. So it's like the first save I made to the very last, and you can open them all at any time. One other thing I really like about the data panel is that you can share a public link. So here you can do a copy of the link, send the file to somebody. They can open it on their phone, their laptop, their desk, or their browser, uh, anything, and they can edit the file. They can download it, add it to their Fusion library. They can also, just rotate around the model. So if you're working with a client, it's actually a really nice feature because they can actually see the thing as you've made it and see the updates, and it's actually, pretty helpful for collaborating in general. So that's pretty straightforward. It's a bit weird to get used to using this system, but after I started using it for a lot, I really liked it. So anyways, let's talk about the most basic stuff. So we have the interface here. It's really straightforward. We have different tabs. So for example, we have a render tab, an animation tab, a simulation tab, as well as a manufacture and drawing tabs. So we're going to be mostly just talking about the design tab, and we might touch the render tab in this video. But I really just want to cover a lot of the most important and basic things that you need to know to get used to Fusion 360, and just some nice tips to make your transition to Fusion, really painless, because Fusion is already one of the least painful softwares to learn, so making it even more painless is basically going to make it so you can learn this program, I swear, in like a day. You can feel comfortable within it in probably like 5 days and feel really, really comfortable in, a month, much more than any other software I've used. So I really love Fusion. It's really straightforward and really flexible. But anyways, enough talking. So in the design tab, which is where we're going to spend pretty much all of our time in this tutorial, we have a few different tabs. So we have create, creating objects. It's pretty straightforward. But if you've never, if you're just starting to use 3D and you're a concept artist, it's really important. So this is where you're going to be, creating objects, uh, doing things related to making something new. It's pretty straightforward. And then over here we have the modify panel. And this is basically, things like combine. So if you want to, bind bodies together, scale stuff, etc. All of these commands are going to be here, and we'll go over all of the tools. Don't worry about this. But these are, the most important tabs that you're going to be working with. We have assemble, and assemble is if you want to rig some mechanical stuff and test, how things are working, range of motion studies, whatever. Construction planes. Construction planes can be used to create objects and other things off of. We might use them in the tutorial, but honestly, I don't need them too much. I don't find them to be super helpful, but sometimes I'm using them because you can do interesting stuff. But we're not going to get into much detail about each tool in this video. So then over here we have a really important tab, and it's insert. So if you want to attach a background, like not a background image, sorry. If you want to attach like a canvas, so some sort of reference image in the background, you can do an attached canvas. You can also add a mesh, so if you want to insert polygons like from a 3D program that you want to model over, this is where you do it. Typically most programs you're doing it from here. In Fusion you're doing it from the insert tab, so it's a bit weird actually, but big freaking deal. So over here we have our browser, really straightforward, really obvious how it's working. We have our component levels. So basically a component is one of the most important things in Fusion. It's basically like a group, but a bit different, so I'll explain. So I'm going to create a component from this body, and don't worry about it, you don't need to know right now, but These blocks are basically the icon for components. And if we scroll all the way down through this fillet history and stuff, you can see this new component I created. So you want to work with components a lot. The reason why is basically if you click this activate component button, it'll make you only work on this. And so you'll notice when you're working on really complicated things in Fusion that it's going to start slowing down a lot. And it's going to be a horrible experience. Just, doing simple operations will become really slow. So if you separate your objects into components, and I'm not saying do it like obsessively, like every part is a new component, no. But like if you have a gun, maybe the hand grip is a component, or like the front of the gun is a component, the back is a component. This type of thing, it's going to be one of the best things that you ever did. Because for a while I didn't know about this, and once I figured it out, it made my life so much better because you're going to have much better performance. And it's pretty basic thing. So basically it's the same thing as the top of the list. We have bodies, sketches, and history from the modeling stage, except that this top one, it's just the overall project component. So all of your new bodies, unless you're working in an active component or something like that, will get added to the master component. So scroll down and that's where you're going to find your components, and then yeah, they all have bodies inside of them. So to work with components, you need to go here to your menu, right click, move to group. It'll open this dialog, and you click target the group, and we select this, and then you need to open the component here, go to bodies, and then click OK. And so that's the most basic thing with components that you need to know, but trust me, don't forget to use components. I promise you. Alright, so enough about components, but I wanted to go over it before I went too far into everything because it's actually extremely important and helpful. So, as we already said, we have bodies. Bodies is straightforward. It's just like surface, form, mesh, solids, these types of things. They're all going to be in this bodies list, and they'll have different icons. So if you make a polygon mesh thing like this, it'll show up as a different object if you convert it to polys, or there's different icons. So it's pretty straightforward. So let's talk about the different tabs. So we have the create tab, and it's pretty simple. It's just things relating to create. We also have patterns here, and we'll talk about all of these tools, and I'll show you how they all work in one of the next videos. And then we have the modify tab, which is making changes to a mesh, also very straightforward. Assemble, so if you want to do joints and like rig mechanical stuff, test range of motions, and how parts will clip when it's functioning, this is how you do it. But we're not going to cover it in this video because there's really no need. We're going to mostly cover the basics of asset creation and using solids, and how to think in CAD, and some of the problems that you might run into. So we have construction planes. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do, but basically construction planes are these planes that you can work off to make things. You can draw objects on them. You can also spawn bodies off of them, because yeah, we'll talk about it more later, but you can basically draw a body from any angle, from any part of an object. And so construction planes you can use to do that, and there's a lot of different ones. So play around with these. We won't be using them probably that much in here, but they can be really useful at times. So we have the inspect. It's pretty simple. We have measurement tools. We can see how big things are, etc. That's the only thing that we really need to talk about in here, especially if you're doing stuff that deals with real world scale. We also have the insert tab. So typically in most programs, when you insert a mesh into a program, you do it from the file tab. Well, in Fusion, you're doing it from insert mesh, and it's just a thing. I don't know why it's there, but I guess it just is. And then you can do an attached canvas. An attached canvas is basically just for reference images you want in your background, etc. So I'm using insert mesh a lot when I'm doing design work, because I'm working with polygons and CAD often. So really helpful to use and know about. So one quick other thing, let's talk about the appearance tab. So if you press A on your keyboard, you're going to basically open this appearance tab. It's also very straightforward. You can just pick a material and drag it onto your object. That's really all there is to it. You can double click, change material properties as you like. You can change the roughness values, these types of things. So nothing really revolutionary here, but pretty nice. And if you just want to press A again, you can close it out. Well, sometimes it toggles it. All right, so there's a few more important things. So we'll talk about it more when we're actually modeling, but I really like to use these selection priority things. And what they mean is, so if I have faces or body priority, I'm only selecting bodies. Face priority is only selecting faces. And then edge priority is only selecting edges. Pretty straightforward. One other thing that's also very important is the design shortcuts. So design shortcuts is just basically press the S key and it brings these up, these actions, and you can just click one. There is hotkeys in Fusion and we're going to go over those next, but I also sometimes am using design shortcut. It's a bit visual and somehow I like it, even though I'm only using it for very specific things usually. But anyway, so to add something to here, we'll type, let's say we want to do fill it. And here we just press this tab and it gets added. You can also remove it by clicking and dragging off of the thing. So yeah, I really like this thing. I use it a lot and I got used to using it, I guess, because it didn't have shortcuts at the time, but Fusion now has shortcuts. So let's talk about setting them up. It's not as versatile as I'd like. You can't do things like switch between left viewport, perspective, or orthographic with hotkeys yet. At least at the time I'm making this video, but I think that that'll happen someday, hopefully soon. But let's talk about making hotkeys. So let's go over here to just any tool, really, it doesn't matter. And let's look at this 3 dots next to it. So I'm going to go to Shell. If you click it, it'll have Pin to Shortcuts, Change Keyboard Shortcuts, or Pin to Toolbar. So we'll go to Change Keyboard Shortcut. So here we can just, assign a new keyboard shortcut to Shell. And so I'm going to make mine Control Shift X and then hit OK. Pretty straightforward. And then you can see it works. No big surprise. So hotkeys are awesome now that Fusion has been added to Fusion. I feel like it's a lot faster than Moe for a lot of things once it got it. So anyways, let's talk about next just some simple stuff that are really important before we get into modeling. So let's go to preferences and let's talk about one of the most important things and the question that gets asked a lot. So there's parametric modeling, and parametric modeling basically captures your history of every action, and it's good for some things because it's highly editable, but on some points, especially when you're doing concept work, it can just get in the way. It makes your life a bit messy. So I'm not going to be able to show too much about it because I just think the most important thing to know is that you should turn it off 9 times out of 10, because if you don't, Fusion is going to be slower, you're going to have worse performance, and it also makes the files just a bit more complicated to work with. There's certain things that you just can't do, like you can't delete sketches, this sort of thing. So the most important thing that I would say is when you get into Fusion, go over here and turn on Do Not Capture Design History. Do direct modeling. I promise you, for concept and most things, it's much better. That's probably one of the most important things because everybody who uses Fusion is going to Google it at some point. Alright, so we talked about things like scene management, how the file structures are working, all of this stuff. We talked about turning history on and off. Like switching it to direct modeling. Don't forget to do this. The last thing that I want to talk about is just basically show some of the basic actions and how it's working. So if we create a box, you can see that every time you create objects, you're going to have these, handles that you can drag around. And you also can pick the operation. So in this case, we're going to do a new body. It's going to show up here. And then I'm going to draw a cylinder out. You can also get it from the Create tab. And you'll see that immediately it's starting to cut into the object. And you can adjust it, and it's booleaning in real time. So we can change this also to a join, which makes this all one object. Or we can do a cut, intersect, new body, or a new component. So it's just important to keep in mind, and this is basically the basis of modeling in Fusion is booleans. And when you create new objects, it's going to basically ask you to do this each time. So it's one of the most basic things. In this video, I just wanted to talk about the UI and how Fusion's working. So in the next video, we're going to start talking about tools and using them. And then after that, we're going to go and I'm going to do a live step-by-step tutorial on how to model this grenade. Afterwards, there's also going to be a bonus video of me modeling the internals of the grenade, and it will give you a chance to, just watch and have some extra content. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this is a helpful series. I'll see you guys in the next video.